Third stimulus check. Will you get a $1,400 check? That is the topic of the hour. But first, we got a word from Joe Biden himself. He talks about unemployment. He talks about taxes. He talks about everything you guys need to know. And he talks about Trump's impeachment. Let's get right into this.
So President Biden faces a challenging week ahead in Washington as he pushes forward with the Democrats' nearly $2 trillion COVID relief bill. But former President Trump's second Senate impeachment trial is set to begin tomorrow and is threatening to overshadow relief efforts. Mr. Trump is accused of inciting the attack on the Capitol last month. It's unclear if any Republican senators will vote to convict him, though. Nancy Cordes is in Wilmington, Delaware, where President Biden spent the weekend. Nancy, what can you tell us?
Well, good morning from a windy weekend. That's right. President Biden did watch the Super Bowl here in Wilmington with his family after sitting down for a wide-ranging interview with CBS Evening News anchor and managing editor Norah O'Donnell. They discussed the toll that this pandemic has taken on school children, and he said guidance is finally coming for how schools can safely reopen.
You have to have fewer people in the classroom. You have to have ventilation systems that have been reworked.
President Biden told Norah O'Donnell that federal guidance for a return to school is coming this week.
Our CDC commissioner we just named is going to be coming out with science-based judgment within, I think, as early as next Wednesday as to lay out what the minimum requirements are.
The president also laid out some of his red lines in the next COVID relief bill.
You said you're not compromising on the $1,400 checks.
No.
He said he is willing to deal on some things, like lowering the income cutoff for stimulus checks and holding off on a $15 minimum wage. But on other provisions, like $400 a week unemployment benefits for the next 6 months, Mr. Biden is holding firm, to the frustration of a group of Senate Republicans who had hoped he would meet them halfway.
The administration is showing very clearly they don't care if they have to work with us.
The COVID bill could be overshadowed this week by the second Senate impeachment trial of former President Trump, accused of inciting an insurrection last month.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
Over the weekend, Wyoming Republican Liz Cheney was censured by her state party, but the Congresswoman said she did not regret voting to impeach.
What we already know is enough for his impeachment. And this is not something that we can simply look past or pretend didn't happen or try to move on.
A conviction in the Senate is unlikely.
This impeachment in the eyes of most Republicans is an unconstitutional exercise.
Mr. Biden told CBS News that his predecessor should no longer get classified intelligence briefings.
Why not?
Because of his erratic behavior unrelated to the insurrection.
After that interview, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki clarified that President Biden has deep trust in his own intelligence team to make that final decision about whether President Trump should receive future briefings. Also over the weekend, President Biden was among those paying tribute to George Shultz, who was President Reagan's Secretary of State. President Biden called him a gentleman of honor and ideas. Shultz died on Saturday at the age of 100, Anne-Marie.
Yeah, that is a good long life. Listen, Nancy, I know that you are covering the White House now, but I have a couple questions kind of related to Congress because, we have this huge impeachment trial, second impeachment trial of President Trump that's scheduled to start tomorrow. What can we expect ahead of the proceedings? And I'm wondering just how the White House plans on dealing with it. I'm sure President Biden has a long list of things he would love to do and talk about and love the American public to pay attention to, and perhaps the impeachment is not one of them.
Look, I think you'll see some counter-programming from the White House. They'll be talking a lot about President Biden's COVID relief bill. They'll want to keep the focus on that, but they realize that the impeachment is going to be the big attention getter over the course of the week. But it doesn't stop aides in the House and the Senate from continuing to work on the COVID relief bill, even as senators themselves are really tied up with this trial. It really is the work of the aides at this point to craft the legislative language that will end up becoming this $1.9 trillion bill. So two things can take place at once. We don't know at this point exactly how long the impeachment trial is going to last. We do know that The White House is very eager for the House and Senate to vote on this package by the end of the month. So they would like to be able to move on from impeachment sooner rather than later. And there's a definite sense among aides to both House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic leader Chuck Schumer in the Senate that that's what they want as well, that they don't want this to be a long, drawn-out impeachment where you hear from every witness under the sun, because there are some really big things that they want to get to as quickly as possible, particularly because those unemployment checks, $300 a week, are set to run out in the middle of next month. So they do have a deadline here if they want to prevent those checks from lapsing.
And just really quickly, do we know who might be replacing Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene on her House committee assignments since she was stripped? One of them is education. We heard the president, mention or talk about wanting to reopen schools and getting guidance. Any idea who will be taking her spots?
I haven't seen who Republicans will name as a replacement yet. They will have an extra spot that they can dole out potentially to another freshman member. She has argued that somehow this frees her up to push her ideas, since she won't have to deal with the pesky bother of sitting on a variety of committees. But I have to tell you that that is really how you get anything done in Congress. If you don't sit on committees, it's really difficult for you to have any legislative impact at all. So it is a big blow, even though she's doing her best to characterize it as a boon that gives her a lot more free time.
Right. Okay, so switching gears a little bit, we've been playing segments of that exclusive interview with President Biden. He spoke with CBS Evening News anchor and managing editor Norah O'Donnell about vaccine production and getting to herd immunity before the summer. I want to play a little bit of what he had to say.
You're President of the United States, Commander-in-Chief. Can you do something in terms of going to Moderna, going to Pfizer, saying we need more production?
Yes, I think, because we've already done it. But the idea that this can be done and we can get to herd immunity much before the end of this summer is very difficult.
Interesting. So what are some of the other new vaccination efforts that the Biden administration is pushing for?
Well, White House officials said something very interesting on Friday, Anne-Marie. They said that they've actually been negotiating with companies that would enable Pfizer and Moderna to have all the equipment that they need to speed up production of the vaccine. And they didn't go into any detail. They said that these contracts take about 4 to 5 weeks to negotiate, and we're right in the middle of that process, and that federal laws prevent them from giving any details during that time. But they certainly indicated that they are working behind the scenes to do what needs to be done to enable Pfizer and Moderna to rapidly pick up the pace here. And that is really interesting, because we've been asking for the past few weeks, isn't there more that can be done? Can't you use the Defense Production Act to get, let's say, other pharmaceutical companies to start making the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine as well, just so that there's more supply? So it's the first indication that they are doing something, utilizing the DPA to speed up production, and that hopefully we'll know within the next couple of months what that will mean for this
10.5 or so million dose supply that we're seeing right now, and how